He's as British as Bangers and Mash and at least 3 times funnier. John Cleese was a part of surreal comedy group Monty Python that first appeared on television in 1969. The group became legendary for their sketch show before the classic Monty Python films changed comedy forever.
Fart in your general direction.
When the Pythons parted ways, Cleese received more acclaim when he wrote and starred in Fawlty Towers,
Don't mention the war.
a show that topped the British Film Institute's Top 100 poll as the best British TV show ever. Having appeared in nearly 60 feature films, including the classic A Fish Called Wanda, Cleese is in the country doing what he does best, making us laugh, only this time from the stage.
And joining us now from Perth ahead of his first week of shows there next week, please welcome to the project, John Cleese. John, I understand this is your first ever tour of Australia. What the hell took you so long?
Well, I was really, until about 5 years ago, I was a creature of film and television, and then I discovered that I could do a one-man show. So I've only started doing that in the last 3 or 4 years. The very first experiment was in New Zealand, because I reckoned if I failed in New Zealand, no one would know.
Whoa, New Zealand joke straight away.
I reckon you might be right there, John. Now, John, what exactly does an evening with John Cleese involve?
Well, it's a little different what I'm doing in Australia because I know that audiences like to be involved as much as possible. So I thought if I got someone from the local radio station, a well-known radio host, to interview me in the first half, and then I do about 30 minutes of scripted material, and then we do Q&A, which is great in Australia because the audiences are nice and rude, and that makes it much more fun.
Now, mate, if you need someone else to interview you, I'm still available, all right? So.
Well, there's a price.
Now, John, your last tour was called the Alimony Tour. Fairly obvious why you had to do that tour. How did that go?
Oh, it went fine. There was some very funny material that had been written for me by some Canadian and American guys when I did the Just for Laughs in Montreal about 2 or 3 years ago. And it used to get such huge laughs that I used to begin the show with it. But it's a joke that we've done now, so we've let that one go. So now we start without any reference to it.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that, John, to be honest, because if that was the Alimony Tour, now you can say, look at me, aren't I clever? I've got a girlfriend almost half my age. That hasn't got much of a ring to it as a title for a show.
Yes, but I'd like to point out she is 3 weeks older than my oldest daughter.
Well,
that makes it okay.
That makes it okay. But John, you must be one of the happiest men in the world. But how do you get away with appearing to be so grumpy? I mean, can you never?
Well, it's because if you look at all the people who really make us laugh, I think that they're mostly fairly awful human beings. I don't mean the performers themselves. Nice people aren't basically funny, because comedy's about lust and bad temper and obsessional behaviour and stupidity. It's not about people being nice and flexible. If you're nice and flexible, you're not funny.
Which is the perfect segue to Basil Fawlty. John, I was a huge Fawlty Towers fan. Everyone in Australia's seen it, but only 12 episodes or something were made. How does a show with that few episodes become such a phenomenon?
I don't know. I don't understand anything really anymore. Connie Booth and I used to spend 6 weeks writing the episodes, and I think the reason that people can watch them again and again is there's so much in them. I was told that the average BBC sitcom, half an hour, was 65 pages. We used to do about 140 pages a show, so it was so fast and there was so much in it. I think people can watch it many times.
Now, John, you've also starred in a handful of really successful films, but one of my favourites, A Fish Called Wanda and Archie. Women adore him. What do you think is the appeal of Archie?
Well, he was a bit hopeless, really. He was so decent that I think when he finally said, right, that's it, and he starts taking control of his life, I think everyone's cheering for him, because up to that moment, frankly, everyone's, you know, crapping on him, really.
Mate, can I get back to your TV career, which became a film career? Monty Python, I mean, I know that you've said that Fawlty Towers was written a lot. Was Monty Python just madness? Was there stuff on the page?
Oh, no. One of the things I say in the show is that if you want to understand how the Monty Python group work, you need to think of us as 6 writers who happen to perform our own material. And I can prove that to you because it's surprising, I know, but we had lots of arguments. The arguments were always about the material. They were never about who was going to play what character. Because if we'd been actors, we'd all been fighting about getting the best roles, but we weren't. It was always fights were always about the material. We were basically 6 writers.
Well, did you write the fish-slapping sketch?
You know, I can't remember where that came from, but I do show it because it is the single silliest thing we ever did. Then I say afterwards, I think of some poor media study guy who's, you know, told to study British television has to write an essay about what that sketch means.
John, apart from our pathetic attempts at being vaguely humorous ourselves, do you have any Australian jokes you can throw our way?
Well, the best joke about Australians is the reason they're so well balanced is that they have a chip on each shoulder.
Now, John, you obviously still get a kick out of what you do. You're a comedic legend. What have you found the most rewarding in your long career?
Sex, I think.
Good man, John.
At least you're honest.
I'm looking forward to that tour.
And the last couple of Ashes series.
I did not mention that. I was going to invite you to sit
Listen,
on the...
after 30 years, it was time we won one, you know?
Mate, I was going to ask you to come and sit on the desk sometime, but I'm not sure if I will now. But would you one night, if you're in town, come and sit on our desk and so we could actually touch you?
Yes, of course. Of course. I'm coming to Melbourne I think I'm coming on the 8th, and I think the show starts sort of shortly after that, so I'd love to come in, yeah.
Well, it's a date. I've got that in. That's an ink, too. That's not pencil. You're in, man. So.
OK.
Sounds like
we'll do that.
Sounds like that could be very rewarding. John Cleese, it's been an enormous pleasure having you on the project. Enjoy the tour.
Thank you for having me. No, well, thank you very much for having me on the show. And as I say, I look forward to coming in the studio. We'll throw water at each other.
We'll get the fish And tickets for an evening with John Cleese are on sale now. You can head to our website for the details.